Hi and welcome back to another video of JPlay. I am Marcus, and as you can see, today it's all about League of Six, which is not a brand new game. It's basically a re-implementation of the original game back from 2007. And as far as I know, this was the first game ever released by Vladimir Suchy. Keep me honest here. Dino Toys were kind enough to provide me the review copy of this one, so thanks so much for that. And at its core, it's basically the same game. There were some variants, some minor tweaks, as far as I know, that have been done to that. They also included, to some extent, the one and only, I believe, expansion for this game, which back then introduced 6 players, or this is normally a 3 to 5 player game, and also introduced, I believe, some more advanced companion tiles. What they also did with this game now, though, is they also introduced a 2-player variant. That's not what I'm going to do. I will demo a 3-player game, and I will most likely not do a full playthrough here because playing this alone for 3 players can be quite brutal, and there's a lot of metagaming. He thinks that, she thinks that, I think, and that kind of stuff, and this is really hard for me to simulate. Let's see how things go from here. As far as I know, yeah, you can basically play the original games, or they even included some of the original titles. At least I think those were the ones. Maybe they also did some changes here. In this game they call it somewhat of a, I don't know, basic game or so. It's fully fine, but I prefer the more advanced companion tiles that they have added here. So yeah, let's see how far we can get. And I guess I already set up the table for a 3-player game. There is really not an awful lot that you do other than the companion tiles for the turns 5 and 6 of the games, or the rounds 5 or 6 of the game. So we have 6 of those face up, because each player will get one of these companion tiles at the end of each round, no matter what. And this, or those, really only give you end of game scoring, and in order to give you something to work towards too, these are basically face up at the start of the game. And there are some, let's call it boring ones. Those one here, they will give you straight up victory points. This one is something where you can prepare a little bit for, because then, yeah, you get points for companion tiles that have exact these amount of arrows pointing to them. Here you might be rewarded for crowns and whatnot. So yes, the players have something to work towards too. But anyway, yeah, that's the setup for a 3-player game. We are playing green, purple and orange here. And one thing I already forgot: as part of setup, each of the players will of course start with 3 guards, which is basically a currency in this game. And I decided to play the green cyan player here face up and all the other players face down. But of course we know we all start with 3 of those. And the main reason why this might matter is because the card backs are the same compared to those estate cards here. So they have the same background here. So once, or backside here. So once you are getting those estate cards, yeah, it's hidden trackable kind of information, but if you are like me, I have no clue actually remembering these kind of things. At least to some extent, you should be able to track what each player has on their hand, but at some point in time you will most likely have forgotten how many guards they necessarily have, and that's the main reason why you keep them face down. But again, I decided to play this player face up. So let's start the game, and as usual I will explain the game as I go. One thing I already did as part of setup, but it doesn't really matter. The first thing that you would do in this so-called round setup phase is to reveal the topmost of these estate cards. So you have exactly 1 for 2, 3, 4 and 5 here respectively. What's gone is gone, but typically, yeah, you can only get one of those anyway, but you're not revealing the next card. So that's something I have done, and the next part is to determine which of these cities will be under siege this round. In a 3-player game, 3 of these cities will be under siege. In a 4-player game, 2 of these cities will be under siege, basically enabling each player to be at exactly one of these cities at the end of basically phase 3 or so, or phase 2 of the game. And the way how we do that, we have a deck of 6 cards. Each card represents one of these cities, and we're revealing 3 of those. In a 6-player game, by the way, we have this extra tile here, but I'm not covering the 6-player game today. So let's see, the first city is Bautzen, which is under siege. Then we have Löbau, which is down here. And last but not least, we have Carmen. So these cities are under siege this round, and because we are shuffling the deck of cards each round, basically the same cities could be under siege from round over round. Not very likely, but in theory this can happen. So it's not automatically that the next round these 3 cities will be under siege. It's totally random each round. Okay, now that we have determined which cities are under siege, we will now reveal companion tiles on the remaining cities. And these cities, by the way, are double-sided. This is more of the, let's call it, introductory game. You can flip them over and then they have, let's say, a completely different spread in respect to their resources. And in theory, you can mix and match however you want. But again, for today, we are playing on the, let's call it, standard side of these cities. Okay, which companions will we bring out? I will always start to place those on the lowest numbered cities. So Lauban here, and we are still in round 1 or 2, so we have a pile for that. So this one here is basically an ongoing ability which will kick in basically during phase 5. It also comes with 5 arrows, which basically tells you how many resources you might be getting from that city. So this is really a huge tile, quite honestly. Up next is Görlitz, and this one basically, that's also an ongoing ability. For the most part, these are ongoing abilities. This gives you 1 extra point whenever you are getting this specific bonus when we are, let's say, later on delivering those resources. So this is pretty nice, especially when you get this early in the game, and they all have cool little names. So for example, this one here is called the Burgrave, whereas this one over here is the Merchant, which kind of makes sense because again, you're exchanging one good for another, which can be an extremely valuable special ability, but you can only use them basically once per round. Last but not least, we have to place another companion into Zittau, and okay, here we have basically an instant one, and this is the Advocatus, which allows you to get 2 of those special estate cards. And when you look at these estate cards, they're basically the same as the random ones here. They show you symbols, and that's pretty much not really an area majority, but a majority aspect of the game towards the end of the game. So whoever, for example, has the most amount of crosses at the end of the game will be scoring 6 points, then 4 points and 2 points. And of course, you have to have at least one of those. And we have 3 categories. So we have these arches here, we have the crosses, and we have the crowns. And you do that basically for each of those. So getting those early on is definitely something that can help you defining your game a little bit, because you can really focus on various things for this game. And one aspect is definitely these estate cards, but not necessarily the only way to win the game. But okay, now that we know which towns are under siege and which companions are out there, we know which towns we can go to. Obviously, we can't go to any of the towns that are under siege. Makes kind of sense. You can pass by them, but they're basically out of the game for this round. And now we are coming to the town selection phase. And again, we are doing this in this order here. The Cyan player is first. So we're taking the little wagon because it's the very first round of the game. We can basically choose where we are starting. So it's either Görlitz, Lauban or Zittau. And quite obviously, those up here are definitely very cool. But it's really now, this is now the bidding aspect of the game. So if you don't like bidding games, then this game is not for you. I'm absolutely a big fan of these kind of games, reading other players and whatever, getting behind their thought process is really something that floats my boat quite heavily. So in this case, and I will not overthink it here, I want to place my wagon or the blue player's wagon either in Görlitz or Lauban, because it's 4 or 5 of these arrows here respectively. So now I could already start start my mind game and say, hey, maybe everyone will go for the 5 so I can get the not so strong one here in Görlitz. But I think let's play it big. So we are directly going to Lauban, because again, it's the first round of the game. I get to do that without paying any, let's say, guards or resources in order to get there. When you first go to a city, when there are no other wagons, you always have to go to the 0 spot. So I can't go to a 5, for example, and upping my bid here respectively. So that was my first placement done. Now we will do the same for the purple player. And they now have, let's say, a somewhat deeper choice to make. They could either go for any one of those that haven't been taken, again playing the same game, saying, oh, I don't know, I'm okay here, I don't want to go into a bidding war at Lauban. Or you could really say, oh, I will absolutely want this tile here too, and we'll start the bidding process here respectively. I think in this case purple says, and again, I'm not doing this I didn't really think this through too much, I think I will go to Görlitz for now. So right now we are not seeing a bidding war, which means we are now heading over to the orange player. And again, the orange player has the same choice basically. In theory, they could now go to Zittau and say, no, I'm okay here, that's fine, I want these 2 cars and the 2 arrows are sufficient. In that case, we would immediately end the town selection phase and would move on to basically player order and some collecting the tax. But I think in this case, we don't want to make the lives of the other players too easy, which means I think we are going to maybe Lauban here. I think if we want to go into a bidding war, I want to go to a bidding war for something that's really worth my while here. And now I really do have a choice. I don't need to necessarily go to a 1 now, because it's an actual bidding. I can increase my bids here respectively. So for example, I could say I'm going to the 3, which ultimately means I'm now bidding 3 of my guards to the let's say cyan player here, to whatever, vacate the space and move on to somewhere else. And I think that's what I'm going to do. Can all of the players know how many guards we have at the start of the game? But there is a reason why we all start with 10 victory points here, because for 2 victory points you can ask the emperor or the king for extra guards. So 2 points equals 1 guard in case you need to bid more than the ones you have. So this is now really the question, how desperate the orange player wants that space. So I think let's go to a 4 instead and not bid 3. So now it's basically back to the cyan player to make a choice, because again, as long as there are more than 1 player in each of those cities, we have to keep going basically around the circle, making sure that each player will end up in 1 city where they are alone, or 1 town where they are alone. So again, cyan player can now decide to say, I'm okay, I will take the 4 guards from you and I will move on. On the other hand, they could say, nah, no, I want this space here, so I will go to basically the 5 space, or maybe the 7 space. Again, I can go to the king asking for more guards here. And I believe, quite honestly, this is what the blue player will do. They will go to a 5 instead. And now it's back to the orange player saying, okay, oof, this is now getting crazy. From 5 I have to now go to 7. And yeah, I think they could still do that. Yeah, they could still do that, but I think no, that is fine. I will more or less bail out here. But this also means the cyan player now owes 5 guards to the orange player. 3 we have in our hand, and for the remaining 2, again, we will hand over the 2 now to the orange player here respectively, but therefore the cyan player, basically us, have to lose 4 victory points. Again, 2 per guard we have used. Wow. But now it's back to the orange player. They can't stay on the road, they have to go somewhere. They could now decide to say, oh, I'm okay, I have really received an awful lot of guards, I will simply move over to Zittau here and will be happy. But in order to get there, they have to spend 1 guard per region they are moving. So in order to move to Zittau, they would have to spend 1-2 of the 5 guards they have just gathered. And there they would really end up with somewhat of a consolation prize down here. On the other hand, they could now move over to Görlitz. You can move to the left or to the right, which would still cost them 1 of their guards. But now they can basically play the same game to the purple player, because they now say, oof, I have enough guards now. I received 5 of the blue player or cyan player, so I'm good. And I think this is what orange wants to do. First of all, they have to spend 1 of their guards in order to move. This is a cost they have to pay no matter what. And then again, we are playing the game here respectively. The thing now really is, orange now needs to think about how valuable is it for the purple player to move out. Again, purple, in theory, if they would get enough guards, they could simply go back to Lauban and kick still blue or cyan out of there. So cyan player is not safe. You're only safe, or really safe, when your wagon is here at the 12, because then you can no longer be outbid here respectively. And orange also needs to think that whatever they bid, they know that purple player has to spend maybe even 3 guards in order to make it here. So for a simple just 3, they know purple wouldn't take the bait here. For the blue player, that's something of a thing, but they also would have to spend 7 in order to make it there. So again, orange really needs to pay well here. And this is maybe they will simply spend the 5. And I think that's what they're going to do. They are bidding 5, really making purple an offer that which they can't refuse. And again, purple now has to decide, do they want to pay 7, which again they could do, or if they say no, with 5 I think I am okay. And I think this is exactly what they are doing. So we are handing over, so purple is evading or vacating the space, and we are handing over 5 guards to the orange player here, purple player here, apologies. And now purple has to move out. Again, they could move to Lauban, but I think in this case to say no, that is fine. From my 5 cards, I will spend 3 guards now. 1, 2, 3, making it here to Zittau. And at least for the next round to come, I have some extra guards available. So the next round might be the stronger one. And whereas all the other players are really now down to 0 or 2 guards. But that's basically ending this phase, because now each of the player is in a unique city. So we are stopping the bidding process here. We are now determining the new player order, and we do that based on the amount of guards that each of the players bid. So in this case, purple is definitely down here, whereas both orange and cyan, they are tied. And now you're looking at the numbers of those cities here, and tiebreaker is the higher number here, which means the orange player will be, let's say, leading the next phase to come, which is then the ultimate tax collection. In theory, you can really use those numbers here for those guards, but ultimately you're moving them down anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much. I think you get the idea. But yeah, let's start the tax collection. And again, now we are doing this in this order, which means orange has to choose first. First of all, they will get the companion once they are done. But before we do that, we will try to get something good out of this. So we are now allowed, orange is now allowed, to rotate this tile any way they see fit. And after they have chosen, they will get the rewards here respectively. And I think this is actually quite tasty. Getting 2 horses this round, getting an awful lot of resources. The only problem is we will go into the next round without any guard. So there could be, for example, also something where we say something like this: we want 5 guards, still some resources, but no horses here. And the horses are basically getting you first tips on delivering your resources to the warehouses later on. So what about this one here, for example? This could be nice. That's 3 resources actually. I think honestly I will play it a little bit. like this. Yeah, let's play it short side, and again I will do the thought process for the other players then off camera. So ultimately the orange player will get 2 blue, 2 green and 1 red resource. They have gathered 2 horses this round, which means we are placing the little horse marker down here. This would have been really nice if they would have used horse markers here, horse meeples, but yeah. That's me. And then again, last but not least, they will claim this tile, and again this tile will give them bonus points if they are completing the basically one of these rows from the upper tile here. These have been brought out randomly basically, and usually you're getting bonus points when you are filling up those rows with this tile. You get always 1 more bonus point, and it doesn't really matter if you complete the row. It's basically who have chosen the row, but again I'm getting ahead of myself. But yeah, we are claiming this tile here for now for the orange player. As for the cyan player, I decided to go for this constellation here. So ultimately, because they really spent an awful lot of guards, and there's no income in respect to guards, you only get these either through victory points or through the taxation here. So in this case we are simply getting 5 of these guards, which is definitely important for the next round to come. We will get 2 yellow, 1 green resource. Again, placing it on the card. Cyan player has 3 horses, which is definitely important, and we are claiming this tile here, which again allows us already in this round, because we are not yet in phase 5 of the game round, to exchange 1 cube into another cube. This can be quite huge. And then last but not least, it's the purple player, and they only have 2 arrows here, so they only get 2 rewards, but they get this instant bonus here as well. So I think they don't need guards next round. I believe they have at least 5 as far as I remember, so we could now do something like this. Or do we want to go last with the purple player? And I think not. So we are leaving it exactly as it is, which means we are collecting 2, I think it's wine, red resources here. And we are placing the horse also on level 2. And now the tiebreaker kicks in. We are comparing again the number of the city. In this case, purple was the winner because they are in the highest city, so they will go before the orange player. And I think this was quite important. Last but not least, we are getting to choose 2 of those cards. And now I think it's time to look at the end of round scoring tiles here. So we get extra victory points for crowns and for those arches. And because purple now gets 2 of these extra cards, I think we want to spread things around a little bit. So we take crowns and we take archers. And again, we get to choose. These are the special cards that are available. Purple gets to choose, but we are now also flipping them over, putting them into their hand, more or less, yeah, trying to confuse the other players in respect to how many guards we have and whatnot. And this card tile is not discarded. We are still placing it next to the player board of the purple player. But this now concludes the tax collection phase here, which means we are now moving into the storing phase. And again, we are doing this in this order, starting with the cyan player to purple to orange, which now means cyan player gets to decide first which row we are delivering here first. And one thing I always forget, we should assign the horses here accordingly. So in this case, again, cyan player will start, so they get 3 horses. Then it's purple getting 2 horses, and last but not least, orange is getting 1 measly horse here. Again, you are told to do that during the storing phase, but usually you have to do that when you are collecting the tax income, because this is when you are setting how many horses you have. Then you would now check for the tiebreaker and whatnot, but ultimately you can do that directly when you are collecting the taxes. But anyway, back to the cyan player who gets to choose a row first. We have 2 warehouses here. I believe this is the royal warehouse. This is the estates warehouse. Here you get victory points as a bonus. Down here you get cards for the bonus if you're able to complete one of these rows. And again, cyan has to now assign or choose one of these rows. And Cyan sees, wow, these are 5 bonus points which we would be getting if we would fill up that row. And these are really relatively low scoring tiles. So I think that's what Cyan wants to do. So he's deciding, I think this is now where we would have to choose a different, I think this is where we have to choose the merchant actually. Yes, indeed, once the order of players has been determined. So now Cyan has to make a call if they want to exchange one of their goods or not. But looking at the warehouses, looking at the resources we have, I don't really know if this is important or not. So no, I think we will leave it as it is. But again, Cyan has to choose a row. And we are going to this warehouse up here and we are choosing exactly this row. So we are now telling everyone, if you have to deliver something, you have to deliver it to this tile, to this row here. And this is now a twist in this game, and this is where the horses are very, very important. You don't need to be able to deliver anything to that row. This is where you can basically outbid your opponents to really cash in their valuable resource, because they don't get to choose. There is an official variant now in this set of the rules, which basically tells you if you want, you can make those horses less stronger and tell you that you have to deliver at least 1 cube on your own when you are selecting a row. But we are not playing, we are playing with the standard rules here. So again, Cyan is not able to deliver anything to this row here. Again, it's red, red and blue. So now we are going around the table in a clockwise order. I'm always playing counterclockwise, but this is only for recording reasons, which means the purple player now has to deliver resources if they can. And this is really, really bad because they have to deliver both of their cubes, which means they're not getting to choose a row this round. This is really, really bad. This is where this game can be really, really mean actually. So they have to deliver their 2 resources now to the respective row. Again, they don't get a say in that. If you can deliver, you have to deliver. As a small consolation prize, they still get some points here. So it's basically 1 point each, which is really not an awful lot, but purple will take it anyway. And now, as orange has 1 missing cube here as well, they also have to deliver something in here respectively, so they will also score 1 measly point for that. And now, as the row is full, the player who has chosen the respective row here gets the bonus. And again, because we are in the royal warehouse, this means that the Cyan player will collect 5 points for that without spending any of their cubes. So this can be extremely, extremely huge. Because this row is full, we are now heading over to the next player in turn order, which would be the purple player. But because of Cyan being mean as they are, they can't deliver anything anymore, which means we are jumping over to the orange player, who has the same choice to make. Of course, they have to go for a different row now, and I think this is still getting them an extra point here. So they go for this row. Again, they have the resource, which means they have to deliver stuff. They have red, they have green, and they have blue, which means ultimately they will now score 5 points for those cubes here alone. Then we are moving back to the Cyan player. They still have stuff. They have to deliver what they have to this row, which means they're also collecting 1 bonus point here. Now this row is full, which means the orange player will score 4 points. Now this is the number here, but because of their companion here, they're getting an extra point because they were able to get this bonus. Nicely done, orange. And now it's basically back to the start of the train here again. We started with Cyan, then purple, who couldn't deliver anything anymore, unfortunately, then orange, and now we are getting back to the Cyan player. Both Cyan and orange still have cubes, which means they can still select a row. Cyan will simply go for this one, knowing they won't be able to complete it. Now things would have making sense to maybe exchange one of these cubes, but again, playing this for 3 players is really tough. Anyway, Cyan is choosing this row here, so 1 green, 1 yellow, totaling 5 points. Not bad. 3 and 5, but keep in mind they lost 4 points this round because of the lack of guards. And now orange needs to deliver either yellow or blue. They have neither, they only have a green cube, which means now it's back to the yellow player choosing orange player choosing another row. So basically this row is now completed. Either you complete it or you don't. It doesn't matter. Once you have started to deliver something, you can't go there anyway, because it makes sense, right? You don't have the cubes anyway. So in this case, it doesn't matter too much. We are simply going for this row here, which means the orange player will score 2 more points out of this, and this ends the storing phase, and you are not allowed to carry over any cubes from round to round. In a 3-player game, that's typically not that big of a concern. You are usually able to deliver anything. In a 4 or 5-player game, this can be really quite detrimental, not being able to deliver all of your cubes. You can't store them for the next round to come, and all of these will now wipe. So all of these cubes will go to their respective reserves. We are getting rid of the topmost tile, that respective tile. That's basically the way how you're tracking the round. So next round we will have to deal with those. Again, we are playing a 6-round game. Once we are going through all of those, we are shuffling them, flipping them to the other side when they are showing a 2, and then we go through that once more. We are discarding all the topmost visible estate cards here. We will reveal new ones at the start of the next round. We are moving the horses back into the stables. All the wagons will move to the road in front of their respective towns where they are. From the next round onward, they will basically have to start from where they are. The siege cards are returned. Again, we will shuffle those into the deck of cards. So next round, other cards or other cities or other towns might be under siege. Of course, we are also returning all the horses here respectively, and then we are starting a new round. So let's reveal more estate cards. No one claimed these as part of the bonus, which I think was a little bit of a bummer for the purple player, because I believe this is what they were planning on, but then I saw an opportunity for the cyan player. Then we check which cities are under siege this round. So again, we do that 3 again. Görlitz is now under siege, which is definitely bad news for the orange player, which means they have to move away here. They can't stay where they are. In theory, you could. Next we have Lauban, also bad news for the cyan player. And last but not least, it's all of these. I really shuffled the heck out of this deck. And then of course we are revealing more of these tiles. So we are starting here in comments. Okay, this basically is a bonus, which I think gives you a victory point if you are lowest here, or if it's 0. It's either lowest or 0. I have to check that actually. Then we do the same for Bautzen. Okay, this is the similar tile to this one here. Here you get a victory point if you claim a row or get the bonus from the royal warehouse. This gives you an extra point if you go to the estate warehouse. Also not terrible, of course. And last but not least, down here in Löbau, we have this one here, which is the Centurion. And this is a quite powerful one, because normally when you're moving into an empty new town, you have to place your wagon on the 0. In this one allows you to place it on the 1 space. So anyone who goes there has to bid at least 2 in order to bid you out there. Definitely not too bad actually. And then, yeah, we are selecting our towns again in this order here, starting from purple, cyan, then orange, and we have to start from where we are. So purple is first, and they have to move because again you can't stay at a town that's under siege, but they also don't really hinder. You can pass by them. They are not harassing you in any way. They're very peaceful besiegers. So this one over here for the purple player is not great. I mean, getting extra victory or 1 extra victory point, being last on the horse track here, but you don't want to be last actually. This is really a consolation tile, quite honestly. So I think they will spend 1 of their guards moving over here. right? And then it's cyan, and they have the same decision to make. They can't stay here. This one is really not great, but in order to make it to the, my mind, coolest opportunity right now, they have to spend 3 of their tiles, and then they also have to have some guards left in order to outbid the purple player. Ooh, okay, this is really not great. On the other hand, moving over here, this could be a nice one actually, and maybe that's what we should do, spending 2. On the other hand, we could simply move over here with just 1 guard. It's still 4 arrows, which is not terrible. We are getting some stuff. I think that's what we are going to do. We will play it a little bit safe. So we are spending 1 card now, which means we are moving over here. And then it's orange, and yeah, they also can't stay here. And yeah, in theory, they could go to Bautzen now with 1 of their horses, guards. They could move to Löbau, because this is really the coolest tile. I think it's either this or that. The question is, do they want to go into a bidding war with the purple player? I mean, they are in the lead by quite a bit, so they could spend some victory points for cards, but they would have to spend 2 guards just to get here, and then they still have to spend more guards in order to outbid them. And of course, I lost a little bit of track. I know what the orange player has in their hand because I just checked, but I really have somewhat forgotten what the purple player, but I think they had some of those. So I think we play a rather dull round maybe, and simply move down here. So we are spending 1 guard respectively, which means we are not doing any bidding phase, which is very, very unusual. But in this case, because the way how these towns came out, how they were besieged, I think it definitely does make sense. So again, we are determining now the player order. And because they're all at 0, we simply have to see basically the order here, which means blue is here. Then it's orange, and I think then it's purple. Yes, 2, 3, 4. I think this is correct. So now we are getting or collecting our taxes, starting with the purple player. And I think they will place the tile like this, means they get a red, a yellow and a blue resource, 2 more guards, which of course is pretty huge for the purple player here. They are getting 2 horses, which is also not too shabby. And there's a cool companion, which gives you basically half of a horse, basically helping you with tiebreakers. Can be pretty huge. And I think later on in a 3-4 deck, there is even the stable master who gives you basically 1.5 horse. And this can be really, really strong tile. But we didn't get them out. And the remainder of these 1-2 tiles here, they won't be used in this game. They're basically out of here. But of course, let's not forget the resources here. Next, it's orange, and I think they want to place it like this, and I forgot to award this tile to the purple player, so they now have the Centurion at their disposal. So yeah, we are giving 1 guard to the it's really not great, to the orange player, 2 yellow, 1 red and 1 blue resource like this. Of course, they're also getting the tile here respectively. They have 0 horses, really not great. And then last but not least, it's the cyan player. And I think actually I leave it exactly as it is. I could not really play it this way to don't get any horses. No, I think I can't. Whatever way I rotate it to, yeah, we are getting some horses. No, that it. But at least we are getting some more guards. I think this was already worth it. We are getting some resources here, like this. We are getting 2 horses and of course getting this tile. But unfortunately, purple is winning the tie because they went to a higher numbered city here in Löbau. So then I will assign those horses here respectively. Again, purple now, or not again, purple is going first this round, then it's cyan, and last but not least, it's the orange player. And I believe purple is playing the long game actually. The question is, do we want to go to the 4 or do we want to go to the 5? We would be, I think it's the better deal moving to the 5. So we're delivering what we can. So we're choosing this row down here in the estates row, like this. Ultimately they will score 5 points for this. Then the only other player who can deliver the last piece here is actually orange, which they have to do. Therefore, they will collect 1 victory point. They didn't complete the row because it wasn't their row. They don't get the bonus down here, but they still have some cubes left. But now, because we have completed a row for the purple player, and because it was a row with a 5, they now get to choose basically any one of those cards. You can go for the same value or a lower value. In this case, there's really no reason not to go for the highest one here, which they take into their hand. But if you counted with me, they already collected 3 cards, whereas the other player didn't collect any of those. And again, we are not revealing a new one here. But that's basically the turn of the purple player done. Next, it's Cyan. I believe they will go to the royal warehouse again. I forgot that they could have done this. They could have exchanged 1 tile here, but I'm not taking things back because it would have changed something. In theory, I could have gone for this one, exchanging into a red resource here, but I don't know. It doesn't really matter too much. So no, we are going for this royal warehouse up here. We are delivering this, that, and that. Not only will we collect 5 points for there, we completed the row on our own, which is usually not the best thing to do, quite honestly, but ultimately we are scoring 9 points in total. 4 plus 5, moving us to 26 points. And now it's to orange who gets to decide which row to choose, and I think actually we are not able to complete any of the rows. No, we are out of green and we are out of red. This one would have been nice. Actually, this one would have been nice too, but I think he's not able to complete a row because we are either missing the red or we are missing the green. Ooh, that was really tough. So anyway, we are choosing where we get the most victory points out of this, which I believe, yeah, is up here for the orange player. So it's 3 plus 2 plus 1, so 6 points in total. Not super huge. Unfortunately, Cyan only has a yellow cube, so he can't deliver into that row, but this also means they get to choose another row. But I think it doesn't really matter because all other yellows are simply worth 1 victory point here. So we are simply delivering it here, handing over another victory point to the Cyan player, and that completes the storing phase. Again, those things are gone. We are revealing the next tile for the next round. So again, this always slightly changes. We are returning all those horses, getting rid of the topmost cards here. We will reveal new cards at the start of the next round. Let's send the wagons back in here. We are removing those siege cards here respectively, shuffling them into the deck. We are returning the stable or the horses back to the stables, and then we would be starting a new round. But I think by now you have really seen it all. Again, with the next round we will reveal from this stack of companion tiles. They're typically slightly more powerful, or this one not so much, gives you 3 and you still get to choose one of those. So this could be a nice tile for the purple player, maybe making sure they're getting the majorities. And again, keep in mind right now the purple player is the only player who collected some of those estate cards here. So the next tile could be something like this. This is a very nice one, giving you at the start of each round either a green or a blue resource, which you can then use this round. So nice. And the third tile would be, for example, this one here, giving you 1 extra victory point for each green resource that you are delivering to the warehouse. And then, yeah, you do that twice for rounds 3 and 4, and the tiles for rounds 5 and 6, when you remembered correctly, they are already out here. So in this case, these two would be amazing for the purple player because they already collected some of those symbols on their cards. So maybe let's have a quick look at what they did collect so far. So they have these 3 cards available, so that's 5 ground. So this tile would be 5 points at the end of the game. This would be 4 points at the end of the game, and they could work towards that, by example, going for one of those this round, making sure they're getting, I don't know, more crowns here, for example, 2 more points. I think you get the idea. This is basically the game that you are playing. And yeah, all the others also give you points here. This is straight up 5 victory points. This is, you can spend guards at the end of the game, and for each guard you are spending, you're getting 2 points, but you can only spend up to 3 guards this way. There's another companion where you can do the same. I believe 8 times for 1 point each or so, if my memory serves me right. This again gives you victory points for each tile that you have that has 3, exactly 3 of these arrows. And again, there is a whole pile more of those where they came from. So each time you're playing this game, especially using these advanced companion tiles, you are changing the experience quite dramatically, actually. The same is true for those here. Again, they are now laid out in a random order. So each time you play the game, the cities will be slightly aligned. You can flip them over. So for example, Sitar could be moved to this side here. Again, you could mix and match for the dark and light side, or you can keep them all on one side, for example. So really, replayability in this game, the way how they approached it is pretty huge. I like that a lot, actually. So each time you have to adapt to some extent. Also, basically how these cards are coming out, maybe a little bit the order of those warehouse tiles will also matter to some extent. But yeah, I think you get the idea. And yeah, that's basically how you play League of Six in a 3-player game. I think the game shines in, let's say, somewhat higher player count, so 4-5 players, but it's also quite fun with 3 players. Again, keep in mind there is a 2-player variant using basically some sort of an automated 3rd player here. There are rumors that there might be a solo variant too. At least I read that something in the email. It's not part of the core game, but let's see if something comes up. But honestly, I'm not sure if this is a kind of game I would really enjoy playing solo. This is really playing against actual players, trying to get behind their thought process, thinking what they are thinking and making whatever choices, making either their lives more miserable or your lives better. I think you get the idea. You can buy this game. I believe it will be released definitely at Essen, maybe even before that, but it should be available at Essen. And then I think you can also buy them directly from their web shop. Again, it's the English and German version of the rules. Let me know what you think. I will most likely not going to continue my playthrough here. It's really tough playing this for 3 players, so I really hope you got a good idea what this game has to offer. And in case you know the, let's say, original version of the game without the expansion, maybe you have seen some of the more advanced stuff here which might intrigue you, taking another look at this game. I really enjoy this. It's really exactly my type of game. I like these bidding kind of games. And yeah, before I forget, huge shout out to all of my patrons and channel members out there. You guys are really amazing. Can't tell you how much I appreciate all your support. So if you want to support my little channel here, you will find a link to my Patreon. Join me here on YouTube. There's a little thanks button below the video for a small, or maybe not so small, donation. Definitely like and subscribe, leave a comment. This also greatly helps the channel and is really appreciated. And with that being said, hope to see you soon in one of my other videos. And yeah, until then, bye bye.